Hi, I'm Zeb, and I'm reviewing U-Boat Leader. This is a new game by DVG Games. It's a single-player solitaire. The purpose of the game, the player takes the role of a commander of German U-boats during the Second World War, and his goal is to sink Allied shipping while avoiding Allied destroyers, battleships, and other enemy naval units. The game can be played multiple times using a score system. Players get points depending on how many ships they sink in the course of a campaign. When a certain number of turns have gone by, tally the points and you can determine how well you did. This lets you play multiple times as you stack up against yourself. So, the game comes with a number of different scenarios. You play through different time periods in the war, beginning with the earliest scenario. This is September 1939 to May of 1940. This is when it was easiest for the Germans to actually go after Allied shipping. As the campaigns get later in the war, the hunting gets progressively more difficult because the enemy has figured out how to hunt for submarines. So it incorporates a fair amount of historical accuracy in trying to show how submarine warfare actually worked during the Second World War. So now I'll walk through some of the basic components of the game. These are the campaign cards. There are counters, which are used to show, well, just about everything in the game. You have the U-boats that the player has, you have enemy ships, unknown ships, the number of torpedoes you're carrying, the artillery the submarines are carrying, and then condition counter cards, which basically reflect how much damage your U-boat's taken or how much damage the enemy ship has taken. There are cards, there are event cards. These are used basically as random events you have while you're out on patrol. Then there are cards to determine what merchant ships you encounter, so merchant cards. Cards to determine the escort you encounter from the enemy. Cards that determine what, if any, kind of naval ship you're going up against. And then cards that determine convoys, which are big groups of ships, right? You have a large number of submarines that you can play as. You purchase them with points. Different submarines have different capabilities. Some can carry more torpedoes, some are better at evasion. They can get promoted if they receive enough experience. And then you have the combat map. This is where, once you encounter an enemy ship, you place down all the unknown markers. So you have markers that stand in for ships, basically. Once you get close to them, they're revealed, and you can determine how many victory points they're worth. So on here, victory point 1, for example. Merchants give you victory points. You want to be sinking those. Escorts do not. There's no reward for trying to sink a British destroyer, for example. However, you might have to in order to be able to get close to the merchant ships to destroy them. So the game begins with your U-boats at port. You receive, depending on the campaign and how long you want it to be, there are short, medium, and long settings for each of them, you receive a certain number of supply points to purchase things with. You can purchase submarines, which are worth, when they're untrained, for example, up to 4 points, or so on and so forth. You can also purchase special equipment. So there are special torpedoes you can purchase that either work better against merchant ships or escort ships. You can purchase something like a radio call that allows you to unify your U-boats if you find a target. You can purchase an air search that'll make it easier to find enemy ships. So once you've spent all your supply points, then it's time to send your U-boats out on patrol. When you patrol, you can send them to whatever destination you want. You'll take a number of encounter cards for every zone you pass through. So let's say U-51 wants to go to, what is this? The western approaches, so mid-Atlantic, right? I will go 1 into the North Sea. I will draw an event card. You get 1 for moving through. So, event. Rough seas, add 1 stress to this U-boat. So you find a 1 stress token. Since it's U-51, I just keep it on the card, and that reflects how much damage it has. As U-boats take damage, their abilities become compromised, so they don't shoot as well, they can't evade enemy fire as well, and it's possible for them to be sunk once they take enough damage. So you want to minimize the amount you're taking. There are also good event cards that you can accumulate while out at sea. So once I've got him out to where I want him to be, I've had all the event cards, he stays out here and he's done. I do the same for the rest of my U-boats. They move out. So that's the moving phase. Then you go on patrol, and then you find in which you draw additional event cards for each of them. Once that's done, now it's time for the contact phase. In contact, you're rolling to see what ships, if any, they're going to encounter out there. So each zone has a different number attached to it. You take the 10-sided die, and depending on what you get, that's how many encounters you can have. So I rolled a 4 for U-51. That means he has 1 contact card. He'll draw 1 convoy. So in this case, it's just a lone ship. So the way it works, you draw the convoy card and it shows where ships go. In this case, the map is set up with 4 quadrants here and then a ring out there. So L1, it goes into that sphere right there. You take merchant counter like this. We don't know what kind of ship it is, so it has a little question mark next to it. And then it has a condition, so engine problem. At the start, place a light damage counter on the lone. What that means, it's been damaged, it's compromised, it's easier to sink. Basically, I've got an easy pickings target. So your submarine will show how many moves it can take in a given turn on it. In this case, I'm stuck at basically, oh, actually with this unit, I'm stuck with 2, so I can move 1, 2 closer. Now I can see what it is. At 0 to 2 range, all ships that come closer to you are automatically revealed. So you draw from the merchant card. It's the ship, the Balmoralwood. The name isn't really particularly important, but it does determine how many victory points it's worth. In this case, 1. Submarines have the option of coming up either above the surface or below. They can be submerged. The advantage of being submerged is that, well, it's obvious, the enemy can't see you. But in being above the water, you tend to shoot better. So because it's a lone merchant ship and doesn't really pose any threat to me, I'm going to go in for the easy kill on this one. These numbers right here show successive levels of damage needed to sink it. So on a 3, I inflict another light damage. On a 5, I inflict, or a 6 right there, I inflict heavy damage. On a 9, I sink the thing. It just goes straight under. So you can fire as many torpedoes as you have ready. Every U-boat has a different number that can be ready at any given time. In this case, I have 5. Now, let's say I really want to sink this goddamn ship. I'm going to fire 3 torpedoes at it. In doing so, I get a plus, for every torpedo you fire past the first, you get a +1 bonus. So for firing 3, I get 2, and I roll 3 times. That's an 8. That's a 3, it's not so good. And that's a 7. It just took 2 heavy damage and a light damage counters. The thing goes under the ocean, and I collect a victory point for having sunk it. Lose that number of torpedoes, he's got another 9 on board, and I continue. He goes into the searched box, he's had his encounter, and I just do the rest for the rest of these U-boats. And that is how a basic patrol works. Now, obviously, as it goes on, these U-boats will inevitably accumulate stress from being out at ocean. They're going to run out of torpedoes, so I'm going to have to go back to port to eliminate stress points and get torpedoes back. The game defines each patrol as the time it takes for that U-boat to go out to sea and then come back to port. So in a short setting, once I go back to port with that U-boat, he's done. Game's over. I play with the rest of them until they run out. Longer games, it can go on multiple sessions over and over again. In terms of production quality, this is a really well-made game, and I appreciate that the instruction booklet, while it is thick and kind of a daunting read, it is really well organized. As I started learning the rules, I started picking it up faster, so it plays very logically. Artwork, it is nice to look at. Being a World War II nerd, I kind of appreciate the little touches like naming all of the ships, naming all the escort ships. It gives it a certain flavor and authenticity that if you're really into U-boats, I think you could enjoy this a lot. The number of counters can be kind of a problem because it's possible to run a convoy encounter where you've got 6 merchant ships, 3 escorts, and then however many U-boats you're throwing at it too. So you've got 9 ships, 2 submarines, and then all the conditions that they're running. So some of them are going to be damaged, some of them are going to be spotted. It's going to make it very, very difficult to manage. You need a large play space to really make this game work, I think. It gets a little daunting that way. Likewise, the number of U-boats you have, it makes for an experience with some variety, but it's a game that can be difficult to organize, I think. There are just so many components that come with it. As for the play experience, I have to confess that I am not much for solitaire games. In large part just because I enjoy the social experience of playing board games with other people. This is a fun game to play, but I'm not really sure that I personally would ever sit down and actually play this very often. However, there are a lot of people that do enjoy this kind of game. And for what it's worth, I do think it's well made in that regard. It's well balanced. It offers a lot of variety in terms of being able to play it. You have different scenarios you can go through. There's the possibility that the game makers will release additional expansions that you can use. There are optional rules. And there is a certain element of being able to play against yourselves through the score mechanic because, as you play, you get a score at the end of it. So the game encourages you to try to shoot for better scores every time, figure out better strategies to hunt U-boats. In terms of how the enemy behavior is regulated, I feel like it works very logically. Enemy ships, when they get close to you, they simply start hunting you if they can find you. The one mechanic that I thought was confusing, in a large convoy, there's something called lag movement, where every other ship, you basically pick a waypoint marker, and every other ship will move relative to it. It's supposed to be the ocean currents and the convoy moving in relation to your U-boats, but it's kind of confusing to try to juggle. Maybe if I saw somebody else do it, I would understand it better. Overall, I liked this game, but again, I'm not sure that I personally would own it. But if you're into single-player solitaire games, or if you really like U-boats, I think this could be a fun game for you. I'd give it a 7 out of 10.